And here's what I found, and maybe you'll agree with this. I saw this quote and I thought this was great. And it said this: a majority of breakdowns happen not due to a problem, but how we communicate about it. Amen? Did you guys agree with that? A majority of breakdowns happen not due to a problem, but how we communicate about it. It says this in Proverbs 18, verse 13. Spouting off before listening to the facts is both shameful and foolish. And let me tell you, I've been shameful and I've been foolish at times. So why do we do that? Why do we have that tendency to allow, I guess, conversations to get out of control? And there are certain things, I'm going to just go through a quick list, like in preparing for this message and doing research. These were some of the common things that cause conversations to just get out of control. So here's the first one, is monologuing as opposed to dialoguing. Monologuing as opposed to, you guys know what a dialogue is, right? A dialogue is two people that are actually dialoguing, right? They're going back and forth. There's a conversation that's happening between the two of them. A monologue is where I just speak. I get it out. I say what I got to say, and boom, we are done. And you better adjust to what it is that I said. Sometimes that's what we're guilty of. We monologue as opposed to dialoguing. Or, in that kind of same vein, another thing that we can be guilty of is interrupting. Because here's the truth, and maybe I'm the only one that's been guilty of this, is I'm listening to you, but not because I really want to hear you. What I'm listening to is a point that I can counterpoint to prove that you're wrong. And what I'll do is I will interrupt you in order to prove that I won't let you finish your thought. And have you had people say that to you? Well, can I finish my thought? No, because your thought is dumb, right? that's what we're thinking. What's that? What was that? Oh, because that's what we're thinking, right? So you're like, Ken, you really went there, because that's what we're really thinking. And so we interrupt them because our response is just so much wiser and insightful. And if they just understood our perspective, then they wouldn't be so dumb in what it is that they say. So what we do is we interrupt them. Another thing that tends to cause arguments to escalate is when we use you statements. But we use you statements in a way to where they're accusatory. We use you statements as a way to, like, you did this or you did that. And so what happens is when someone does that to you, what do? You go on a defensive, right? So we use you statements as a form of attack. Another thing that we can do is we can actually have actions that show that we're really not listening. And have you ever had someone do that to you? Like you're trying to talk to them and they're looking everywhere but at you. Or maybe they're looking at you, but they're looking at you like this. Right? So you know when we're in that mode, we ain't listening. So sometimes things escalate because we're in that mode that we're sure that we're not listening. Or another thing that I've seen that cause conversations to explode are what I would call terms of exaggeration. You guys know what I mean by that? There you go. You always, or you never. That's it. You notice how my wife is quickly answering a lot of those? Not that my wife never uses those at all, never. But yeah, so you always or you never. Because as soon as you say that, what is their response? As soon as you say you always, they'll tell you the one time they didn't. Or you never, they'll tell you the one time they did. Now here's the reason. The truth is we use always and you never, not because we are not literally thinking you always, but what we're trying to do is maybe it happens so often that it feels like always. So we use terms of exaggeration, but it actually derails the conversation and what it is that we desire to do. Another one is building your case just on your side of the story. So what I mean by that is you begin to have this conversation, it begins to go sideways, but your goal is just to have your side said. So you're not looking at how can we bring this together, You're not looking at how maybe I misunderstood. You're just looking at this is my point, and we're just building it off of our perspective, our insight, the way that we think about the circumstance or the way that we think about the situation. Or how about this one? How about this one? Apologizing just to end the argument. Not that we're apologizing because I recognize, like, I'm wrong, I have to work on that, I have to change, I have to grow. No, we're saying, I'm sorry, because really, what I want is for you to shut up. So, I'm sorry, but it's not that we really want to fix things or change things. We're just saying, I'm sorry, just to say, I'm sorry. And how do they know that we're really not sorry? It's because we repeat the action again in the future. But we just want things to be done, so we apologize. All right, here's another one. Mixing past issues with the present problem. How many of us are guilty of that? Like you don't have to raise your hand. Sorry, I don't want to. Thanks for your honesty, though. I don't want to embarrass you. Some people are like, but sometimes what we can do is we're starting to have this, and let me tell you, here's the reason why we bring the past issues into the present argument, is we bring the past issue in because we never really dealt with it. We never really talked about it. We never really resolved it. Or sometimes we bring the past issue in because we never talked about the past issue. Our feelings got hurt, we got frustrated, we got angry, but we said nothing about it. So now we're in this situation, and let's say, for example, this situation is minute, but we bring in the hurt from the past, and all of a sudden, this minute situation becomes not so minute. And now we're dealing with a multifaceted issue, a multifaceted problem. Or another thing that we could do, ultimatums. How many of us have been guilty of that? I mean, you can only say you're going to fire someone so many times, right? Before your ultimatum loses what? Its ultimatumness, It loses its power. It's just something that you always throw out. But sometimes we'll do that. We'll throw out the ultimatum. And I'm not saying that ultimatums are bad. I'm just saying that because there are some times where we need to say, like, this has to change or else there will be this consequence. I'm not saying that ultimatums are bad, but what I'm saying is when we use ultimatums as a ploy, where it becomes a normal part of what we're trying to get someone to change or get someone to do or get them to act differently, then it loses its power. It loses its significance. And also sometimes you have to be careful because ultimatums could be like, I don't see you changing, I don't see. So maybe this is a way that I can force you to change. So then I'll say that ultimatum because I'm just trying to get you to, I'm trying to force you to do the change that I wanted you to do. So those are elements that we can look at that will cause conversations to just derail and go crazy. So again, and here's a question, and we said this before. Why are we at our worst when the conversation matters most?